Hi there. Welcome back to the Brimstone Coaching Podcast. This is Chris Godfredson, and I'm here with my friend and co-founder, coaching extraordinaire, Kurt Busch. And yeah, I love now that this is video so people can see reactions to the things we say and do that try to get a reaction out of the other person. Like, um, and listener, like deep at our core is to help people get and to move from this place where they're feeling exhausted, frustrated, and overloaded towards a life that is full of contentment and fulfillment and wholeness. And so we tackle topics around self-awareness, anxiety, stress. We talk about promises around here quite a lot, and today we have the opportunity to engage with somebody who's played a pretty good part in the Brimstone Coaching Group coming to be. And I wonder what you would say about the conversation we hope to embark on, Kurt, and about our friend who will join us on the pod today.
Yeah, thanks, Chris. Extraordinaire is a good word.
It is.
I'd actually prefer that to be a title from here on.
Okay, I'm going to try.
Be careful what
try
you
to
ask for.
remember
Yeah, so we're both really excited to give you, the listener or the watcher, the conversation that we just had. We got to invite our friend, and I'm going to say partner and colleague,
Yeah.
Kelsey Kemp, onto the pod. She runs a business called The Called Career. She is a career coaching. She's a career coach, and she also has a podcast called Answer the Call.
Yeah.
So I want to put that into space too. If you're listening on the Brimstone Coaching Pod, go check out Kelsey's pod. It's really good. We just have so much gratitude for Kelsey. We say all the time, Kelsey is our people.
Yes.
So it was a gift to get to talk with her and to get to think about the overlap between the coaching we get to do with people in self-awareness and wholeness and emotional health, and the coaching she gets to do around career transitions and career changes. So
Yeah.
it was a gift for us to sit in this conversation, and we hope it's a gift for you too.
Yay! Okay, well, I'm excited that we get to have this triune conversation about
Hey.
how to manage anxiety in a job search and in a career transition, because we all know this is a really big deal for people and for us when we've been going through it. And so, speaking from personal experience, but also the perspective that y'all have gotten to have as coaches, helping people through emotional health and personal leadership, especially of their mind and getting really healthy. And then me through career coaching. I'm excited for the back and forth that we're going to have to help people through this. Thanks for doing it.
Yeah. Thank you, Kelsey. It's great.
Pretty excited about it.
Well, I am curious what particular worries y'all hear people having when they are going through a career transition. I think that there's some worries that come up in the middle of one if you're job searching or building your own venture. But then there's also ones that are worries as you sense a change might need to happen. What do y'all hear people worrying about that causes a lot of the anxiety?
Yeah. I think a lot of the worries that we hear, or a lot of the anxieties that pop up, are so similarly connected to all the other worries and anxiety that we carry with us in our everyday life. The worry of like, gosh, what if I get found out? Or what if I'm actually not enough? Right? What if I'm making the wrong decision? What if this? What if this? What if this? I think the difference with a career transition is all of that is heightened. I think we learn, right, wrong, or indifferent. And we would say we would want this to be a different way, but we learn how to be, like, we learn how to manage those what ifs. We learn how to manage those threats. But in a career change, Now all of that changes. It's new people, it's new positions, it's new everything, and I think all those threats just come right back up to the surface when we think about having to navigate a career transition too. Yeah, what would
That's
you want
pretty
to
good.
say, Chris?
Yeah, I think for me, is just as I think about the question, and then as I listen to Kurt, who I love to listen talk, like one of the very first things is, what if I blow a question in this interview? I mean, it might not even be once I get to the place where I'm in the job, but like, is all of this stuff going to be, it's all on high alert for me.
Mm.
So like my stomach is in knots, I'm stressed. I don't show up the way I want to. Why do I do this when I'm asked that? Or I mean, it's things like that that I hear. It's things like that I experienced when I would walk into an interview. How would I answer that question? And I think the challenge is, how do we fully be who we are in these kinds of moments, in these transitions? How do I show up in a new space as fully me, as much as is humanly possible, right? And that's the constant challenge, I think, for us, for the people that we work with. Like, we hear it all the time, like, oh, I'm working two jobs. I'm going to do the job that I'm here to do, and then I'm going to fake it till I make it. um, you know I could get just about any job in an interview, because I'm going to show decently well. But a lot of that comes out of my anxiety. It comes out of my stress. And I just happen to do okay in an interview. If you ask me to take a test, now we're in trouble. But, but like, I can talk my way through things and to things. And a lot of people can't. And it's how do they deal with all the things that are swirling in their heart, in their gut, in their mind. And what we try to do is help people just get present to the fact that it's happening,
Mhm.
and then to be prepared for. And I think you do this too, right, Kelsey? Like, you're trying to help people be prepared for these interviews, for what's next, what might be in front of them. And we're trying to help people like understand how they can best show up, and how
Mhm.
they can manage themselves in real time. And I
That's
think that's the
especially what I'm eager to hear from y'all about is what you started to bring it up, Chris. What is the role of or the importance of being authentic or connected to your sense of true self and identity? What does that have to do with anxiety? Like when you're disconnected, does it cause it? That sensation of I'm
Mm,
faking it, or I can't actually be me here because me isn't good enough. And yeah, so what's the connection there with
mm.
anxiety and authenticity?
That's a great question, because I think I think for me, like, the connection is, I think I'm automatically stirred up if I'm not able to be authentically me. And so I think what I would say is, there was a season in my life when I wasn't clear on that,
Mhm.
or I didn't know what that meant. And so there would have been a disconnect. Now I know, if I find myself in a meeting or in a space and I'm not being me, I might take a time out, or I might just acknowledge that I like, look, and this doesn't work in an interview. Can I get back to you on that question tomorrow? Uh, my best answer is going to be next week. Like, that doesn't work, right? But now I think I can prepare in advance for how I want to be in this interview or in this transition. And then I can, like, we talk about it as like a preferred promise. And as we think about that, like, we can determine a preferred future. And so we can make promises to ourselves related to how we want to be, um, and how we want to show up in that space. And now I feel like I'm doing all the talking. Kurt, what do you want to say about that?
Yeah, that's a great question, Kelsey. I think what immediately springs to my mind is that that if we enter into spaces not in our authentic self or not with our authentic self, and we're constantly trying to kind of hold up this inauthenticity, it's just so exhausting.
Mhm.
Like it's so exhausting. And that takes so many forms. That takes the form of like, you and I made a joke of the books in the background before Chris got on, of like, look how learned I am. Like that's one way
Yes.
of saying like inauthentically, like, I want you to see how smart I am. Well, now I have to keep that up, right?
Mm.
Or the opposite is true. If I'm inauthentic because I don't want you to find out that I'm whatever or not whatever enough,
Mhm.
it never ends. So
Mhm.
so I think that comes to my mind when authenticity is a value we hold and a value we strive for, a promise that we make to ourselves that we'll be authentic. It just creates a whole different posture of how we show up things, that's a sustainable posture
Mhm.
versus something that's just constantly in the back of our minds saying, I have to keep doing this, I have to keep doing this, I have to be aware of what people think of me. um, and that's super easier said than done, right? um,
Mhm. I
but
Always.
I'm really grateful that we're talking about this because I realized that as I was just thinking about uh little Kelsey, like pre-career transition when I was in that old job, and oh my gosh, all of my senses were screaming at me
mm,
because I felt like such an imposter. And
Mm.
the fact of the matter is, some mindset work could be done, but honestly, I some part of that is true because I was saying like I was hired to be a tech consultant for these huge companies, but as a 22 through 24-year-old, part of that parades as ridiculous. And can we just
yeah,
acknowledge that?
Yeah, right.
And
yeah,
like,
yeah,
what? And so, but I was like, I was hired to do this job. So, of
Mm.
course, I was going to do my best. But the parade continued, or the charade, um,
yeah.
with trying to make my best of every day doing things that I was not naturally good at.
Uh,
And so that was deeply exhausting because, of course,
mm.
I was fighting tooth and nail
Mhm.
to honor my employer and our clients.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And yet there
And
there's
not be
only
found
so much,
out.
yeah, there's only so much overtime one can do until you realize like if God made me this way, how can I fight against God's design? Like
Yeah.
I just
Yeah.
can't. I can't. So
Mm.
part of my journey, and I'm curious what y'all think about this, to being more authentic is really just to ground it in being more honest. And this
Mm,
has translated into every aspect of my life of
mm,
in a work setting, I'm good at this, I'm not good at this.
Mhm.
mm,
In a work and a personal setting, I like this, I don't like this. I want to do this, I don't want to do this. Creating more win-win situations with vulnerably offering, here's what I think we could do instead. What do y'all think? But like I'm coming from a place and like I with delegating things to my teammates, now I come very authentically from a place of like, oh, I don't think I'm the best person to do that.
mm.
Or honestly, I kind of hate doing that. I what do you
Yeah.
if you hate it, let me know. But if you're actually okay with it, is this okay as a task that
Mm.
you own?
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I am inviting them to be authentic too. So
Yeah.
nobody has to fake forevermore, like, oh, I can't tell her that that is not in
Mm.
my in my skill set at all. And I hate doing it and I don't even want to get good at it.
Mm.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
when you can acknowledge all those things, maybe you could also practice acknowledging what you want instead. So, what job or career or business you want to move toward instead.
Yeah.
And
Mm,
then in the interview, by the time you get to that point, you've already been practicing authenticity and honesty more and more, and hopefully you're getting better at it. To where in an
yeah.
interview, you could really good-heartedly and confidently say, here's what I'm really good at. And then also when a question comes up that you don't know, I'm a huge proponent of saying, I don't know yet. can I get back? I could send you a little report on it right after this interview,
Yeah, right.
especially
Yeah.
to a technical question. I actually think that's quite fair to say.
Hmm. Yeah.
And that right there, I'm reviewing my journey,
Ooh,
helped my anxiety so much.
that's pretty great. And I know we both have like 17 questions we want to
Yeah.
ask. So I want to let Kurt ask the question first.
Okay, I want to ask one. I have one. I don't have 17. Maybe you have 16, and then it would make 17.
Yeah, I would. Right. Exactly.
So, Kelsey, you just said something I think is incredibly profound, and I think fairly countercultural, especially when we think about corporate, Western corporate mindset. You said, I'm good at these things. I'm not good at these things. And I don't hear an ounce of shame in your voice when you say, I'm good at this. I'm not good at this. How did you, like, I love that. At Brimstone Coaching, we love this, that there's no shame in that. How did you get there? Because that feels like
There's the
such a
question.
different mindset.
I think getting to the point where I realized as I thought about my career progression and the person I wanted to be, that I realized titles don't matter. Like if I'm just thinking about like, oh, I want to be a CEO one day, or I want to be a successful trial lawyer, or whatever people choose to say, like, I want this title, I realize like that puts you in a gap because you're not that yet.
Yeah.
And it's it's very awkward to become the huge like big vision that you want to be because it takes so long. But instead I just focused on my career entirely is going to be comprised of days where I do tasks.
Yeah.
What tasks did God design me to do well? And which ones are a total energy suck that I absolutely hate even the thought of? And I don't even want, it's not that I'm stupid. I just literally don't even want to get better at that because I don't like it. And that's how my brain works. So I removed shame around like, I'm good at this, I'm not good at this, when I realized that most of us are actually, it's not so much I'm good at, I'm bad at. It's actually I like doing, I don't like doing. And so I don't have shame around what I like and don't like. It's more heavy to be like, I'm good at this, I'm bad at this. And I think why at this point in my life, I have a lot more comfort being like, I'm good at this, I'm bad at this, is because I know that in my mind, I really mean I don't like that. If I really wanted to, I could get better at it, but I don't want to. And when you're in a corporate setting, of course, this is a bit more complicated than when you have an established business. I say established because we all know that in the early days, you still don't really have a ton of autonomy of what you want to do because you kind of still have to do a ton of grunt work and wear a ton of hats. And so it's not like you're this big CEO yet that has like other people to rely on and whatever. So all of that is very uncomfortable. But in the journey, I think, well, to go back to if you're sitting in a job right now where you're employed by someone else, I do acknowledge that that is more complicated. And so how I would handle that in such a situation is I would say in conversations with the boss, first off, I would ask for a more connected relationship. If you really only seriously talk about your position in the company and how you're doing on an annual basis, there is so much ice to be broken. I don't know why you would get to have such a vulnerable conversation about your role design and what's going well and what's not. I would start trying to break the ice. And if it's not being offered to you, do some managing up and asking, can we have a monthly lunch? And in that monthly lunch, first off, if they're a boss that's worth their salt, like they're going to be asking about how you're doing in the company and what your goals are. So maybe there's a natural lead in there. But if not, you're welcome to introduce the topic after maybe it feels more natural after you're asking them, how do you feel things are going with the team? Like, is there any way that I could serve better? Or what do you personally want to accomplish? Like, why did you get into this line of work? Like, you're leading us. What made you choose to do that?
Yeah.
And when you're creating that kind of environment or culture in your team, if it's not created for you, and you're really honoring your boss and showing that person and your teammates that on the things you are very good at and enjoy doing, you truly do hit it out of the park.
Hmm.
And you have demonstrated through those things that you really are a willing and helpful hearted person, then I think it should be very normal. And I hope that people can own this as like, I don't have to be worried about bringing this up because like this is a normal, it should be a normal professional practice to say, hey, I realize like the compensation analyst tasks that have come onto my plate in the last 2 years, I actually have much more enjoyed these other set of things that have been a part of my role. What opportunities do you see for me growing into that? Or what need do you see for that? Or is there any opportunity, honestly, for some repositioning? Because I promise you, if I get to focus on those other things, like you won't regret it. And if it's not a good fit and there's not a need for your suggestions of repositioning in the role, that's okay. Take what you learned to communicate about yourself and go bring that into your revised resume and your revised career story and your interviews or what you're pivoting into with starting a business.
Sure.
Own it.
Yeah, that's really good. I mean, and I can imagine if you have red blood, well, when we see your blood, if it's red, but if the blood coursing through your veins is the same as ours, there was a moment for you when I think there's a moment for every human being where we're stirred up and there's some threat in asking those questions, right? So for us and for people we work with, there's always this point that like, I just can't get past this because I'm afraid if I ask that question or if I tell my boss, I really like to do this and this is an energy suck, I don't like to do this. I promise you that if I do this, if I'm repositioned in such a way, I'll thrive and blah, blah, blah. But there's a risk or there's a threat probably in making that kind of a statement, or even in the mental model shift in your mind that says, this is how I'm going to live the rest of my days. Like, did that happen for you? And how did you get over, like, what was the step you took?
My step was more drastic because y'all know the answer was not ultimately repositioning within that company. I did try to internally pivot, but I would have to go to an entirely different department because my current role was just that much of a mismatch from my talent set. And I ultimately realized that I needed to take on the responsibility of just going out on my own. So that's how that went.
Yeah.
How do you, maybe the better question is like, when people come to you and you coach them and you say, hey, this is an option, you can do this. And a person's like, whoa, this is not how the American employee works. Like, how do you coach them through their hesitations or their threats? Like, what do you do to help them kind of get over that hump for themselves?
I suspect that the main objection people might have to the approach I mentioned before is, if I was honest, then I would lose my job. And the thing is that you're going to lose a job that you don't like and get severance to pay you to go search for a job you like more? Oh yeah, wow, America is so terrible. Like,
what if we don't get severance?
That's a great question.
What if there isn't severance? There's a risk there.
Well, there's also unemployment, which
sure, fair.
There's
Well,
also working at a restaurant. There's so many opportunities here. A lot of people just are not willing to embrace risk out of like for the sake of staying true to personal integrity. People would actually rather divorce themselves sometimes from personal integrity and keep on like underperforming and blaming it on other people and saying, oh, I just hate this so much. If you hate it so much and it's causing you to be okay with slacking off at work and scrolling through your phone instead of working, then I think that I would encourage that person to take more personal agency and say, like, hey, I think I need to make a different decision here. I'm not at the effect of other people. I'm at cause in my life. Like of course, like this is a more complex topic for Christians who believe in God's sovereignty, but God also told us so that we do have free will. And I think that we need to use that and steward it very faithfully and say like, okay, I'm not a victim to my boss. I'm not a victim to my company. I was sent here like by God for a time, however long or short that might be, to contribute. And if I know in my heart of hearts that they don't even need me to contribute in the ways that I've been given, then I need to go see who else does. And when you're a very honest person like that, that uses that personal honesty to become clear on who you really are and what you have been given to do exceptionally well, then I'll say, enjoying life more. I started to feel more proud of myself. I stopped spending so much of my brain space feeling like a fake or an idiot or an imposter or somebody who would get found out. I started to feel like I was, filling my, like standing up straighter and filling into my role more because I had thoughts about what was going wrong and what could go better. And then I took that confidence and was able, as other people might find, to speak more confidently about myself to others, whether that be potential clients or potential new employers. And so if you're feeling miserable with all of the thoughts that y'all very rightly outlined at the beginning of this episode, don't you think something's going to have to change eventually? Why don't you let the cards start falling as they may now?
Yeah, right. I mean, I love the agency language, right? I don't have to, and we're pretty good at this in North America. Like I can be the victim of my circumstances. And what I hear you saying is, no, you chose or choosing not to, and you believe that other people can. And so like, as you're describing all the things, is like you're saying we don't have to live into and out of our false self. We can actually understand our true self in Christ and live into and out of that place. And that is the life-giving place. That's the place where that's what I'm willing to give my life to. And I don't want it because this is what I'm doing isn't working. And then having the courage to like advocate for the true self. It's really good, Kelsey.
It works out better too when you're not trying to get your identity from your job. Because then if somebody's like, oh, you're actually really not a good lawyer, and you learn to take all your pride from being a lawyer, that would crush me.
Yeah.
For sure.
Yeah.
And what do y'all think about that? Kurt, also you might have had some other thoughts on what we were talking about before, so feel free to speak freely.
I love the way you put that, Kelsey. And I think the questions that were asked of like, well, what if there is no severance? What if this? What if this? Like those are costs and risks and threats. But I think we're so quick to overlook the cost and the threat of just continuing to do the job of, being exhausted and tired and sitting at our desks, doom scrolling. Like there is a cost to that. Just like there's a cost to, making a decision to take some agency. So I maybe just want to highlight like this is not a one-way cost. right? That there's not just a potential cost of losing a job. There is a cost to stay in a job for 5 years and hate it and resent it, right?
Yeah, because the impact of giving up self is
Yeah.
misery. It's
Yeah.
exhaustion, it's frustration, it's feeling overloaded by all of the weight of, and sometimes it's stuff that we can't even name because
Yeah.
we're so deep in that phase and giving it up and not being who we've been created to be, that it becomes debilitating.
Mhm.
And you'd either need to bottom out or flame out or get to the end of your rope before you can say, oh, like, and so that we often ask ourselves, and we ask people to consider, like, the question, what is the threat? And Kurt will often ask, I mean, his go-to move, if you will, there is, what is true? And I think if we can ask ourselves those questions when we realize, hey, I'm giving up self and I don't want to do that any longer, I think that question is really helpful. Mine is a little more practical. It's like, is this going to kill me? Am I
Mhm.
going to die if I do this? And the answer to that is almost always no.
Mhm.
Um, I might have to go wait tables again, which sounds horrible. But it would only be for a season until I get the gumption to, like, but to be languishing in a place or in a role or in a position on a team where I'm constantly having to give up who I am and what I'm best at, what I thrive at.
Mhm.
No, thank you. Um,
Yeah,
that is really, I
exactly.
mean, it's so helpful, Kelsey.
It's making me
Yeah.
think about the verse like Christ endured the cross for the hope set before him because
Mhm.
he was going through a worthy cost
Mhm.
for a worthy reward. But then I'm thinking also about the like play stupid games, get stupid prizes. Like of if
This
you
is
could,
one of the reasons you're our people.
oh yeah.
I mean, because you can go from one place to the other.
Yeah, exactly. Bible and then also harsh quote.
Yeah.
Um, but
Uh,
it's yeah, like y'all were saying, you could be like you're going through a cost to you to be
Yeah.
inauthentic in a job that's not meant for you, and paying that cost is getting you nowhere. It's getting you
mhm.
worse.
Yeah.
So I really want to hear also to go deeper on what you were talking about, Chris, of how um some people don't even they can't name what
Hmm.
they're feeling.
Mhm.
And I think that's actually a big theme for people who have been struggling for a long time. Like
Hmm.
they'll say, I don't know what they want, but it actually also probably started with, I don't even know what's wrong here.
Hmm.
Like I just am frustrated. I just am burnt out. But
Yeah.
what's the problem? What needs to change? How do y'all help people in addition, if there's anything else, like if y'all have heard clients answer your question about what's true or like,
Mm.
is this really going to kill me if I go for it? Um, what else do they often need to disentangle their feelings and start naming things of what's going wrong, so then maybe they could also start naming what they want instead.
Mm.
Kurt, what do you
Yeah.
think? Y'all are looking
Yeah.
at each other.
Yep.
Yeah, we do this a lot on this podcast. Like we need to figure out a way to like communicate, hey, I want you to speak or I want you to speak. We kind of do this. That was the smoothest we've ever done it, Kelsey, for the
Oh,
first
good.
time. So yeah, that's a really good question. I mean, I think what we notice when we coach people is that there is just layer upon layer um, of things that lead to the symptom, right? That there's layer upon layer that leads to someone feeling resigned or cynical, or at the point where they say, this is it. This is what it means to be an adult, and it
Mm.
just
Oh, I
it
hate
kind of
that the
stinks.
most.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah,
Yeah.
one of the shared experiences that we see in a lot of people is that they feel like this is it. So now their bar of good or quote normal lowers so much that they maybe even lose sight of what could be, right? That this is just it. This is what it means to go through life. Yeah, we
Hang
white
on.
knuckle, we hang on.
Yeah.
So there's layer on layer. I think what we believe most together, Chris and I, is that all of these layers go back to something that was said to us, or something that was done to us, or something we experienced probably pretty early in life. And we have developed, as good humans do, we've developed, or as humans do, we develop ways of keeping ourselves safe. And that's usually what's at play here, is like, let's figure out what the real threat is, what we're fearful of, what we think might happen to us if blank, if we're authentic, if we're honest.
Yep.
And then let's navigate together to see if that's true.
Yeah. If we ask for what we want, like
Yeah.
your example of going to your boss, hey, can we get lunch? And then asking for what you need or what you desire, there's something in the way that blocks us from that.
Yeah.
So often that we aren't willing, that we just don't, maybe we lack courage, maybe we did that when we were a little kid and we got smacked around for it, or we were chastised in such a way that we believed things about ourselves that at this stage of my life, if I'm believing what I believed when I was 6, and 6-year-old Chris shows up in this space and I'm a tick older than 6 now, that is unfortunate and not at all helpful. So yeah, Kurt, you're 100% right.
Yeah. We think it all just goes back to, I mean, it's complex, right? I think you said this earlier with one of your answers, Kelsey, like, this is really complex. And there's certain situations where this isn't true, but we think for the most part, when we find ourselves unable to communicate our needs, or when we start deferring, it's usually connected to something that we learned wasn't safe at an early age.
Yep.
Yeah, I really hope more people, especially through y'all's kind of work, learn that a lot of the things we think are unsafe are actually totally fine. Like, totally fine. I address this all the time in my work. Like, just like you were saying, Chris, I'm not going to die if I get a rejection email from the job I applied to.
Yeah.
It's okay. Seriously.
But boy, rejection when I was 13 was painful. And I didn't know what to do with all of the feelings that were stirred up in me when I was rejected. And then what happens is then we just like put that away, or we bury it. And until something that feels like that pricks it. Oh, and now those feelings come rushing back. And it's, for me, it has been debilitating. For people that I coach, it keeps us stuck. And we don't even know it's there, right? So we oftentimes, I think, because this is the problem, like the decision, the protective mechanism that we put into place is unconscious, subconscious probably, and we've evaluated a situation and said that's a problem, when our best thinking might say, no, not really, or at least in our more mature thought processes would say, that actually isn't what you thought it was, or wasn't what you thought it was, but the meaning we made way back when I was 13, that becomes problematic. And if I'm unaware, this is why, I mean, we also believe deeply in doing some self-awareness work to know why we do what we do when we do it. Or I don't ask for what I want or need, because when I did that, this is what happened.
I think that I'm really taken back to this conversation that I was having with a client the week before last, and he said, I know that, you're saying that doing proactive outreach and connecting with leaders is going to be better for landing jobs than just applying, which there's a sense of anonymity. Your name is on the application, but kind of who cares? Like, they're just looking at your resume. But it feels inauthentic to me. It feels like I'm using that person to get a job and I'm not really networking. And I was like, yeah, I didn't say you're networking. You're like literally just offering yourself like, hey, I exist. Do
Yeah.
you need, it looks like you need this kind of help. I provide it. Would it be helpful for us to talk? But he was like, it feels really inauthentic to me. And I just like, he kind of was taking like I don't feel peace from the
Mm,
Lord on
Mm.
doing this. And I was like, all right, okay, let's center. Like,
yeah.
there's some, can I share some other ways that we might be able to see this? And it
Mhm.
kind of sounds like a conversation that I have with myself and friends when I'm in a moment of like, nope, 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 nope,
Mhm.
nope. Like, back it up, close down, shut the doors.
Yep.
Something new that could help me? No, absolutely not. Is I like, wait, can we talk about some things, some other ways that we
Mhm.
might see this? And I wonder how y'all handle those panic moments too, where somebody's like majorly shutting down. But in that conversation, we were able to talk about uh, how do you think that that person who posted that they have an opening on their team, do they have a need? Do they have
Mm,
anxieties around like, oh my gosh, like this, how am I going to find the right person? There's so many people who their resumes look so random and like this doesn't, am I going to find a good person? Is it going to look like I'm finding a good person and then after I give them the job and it's
mm,
all said and done, it turns out terribly and they're not a team player and they aren't quick at picking things up. Do you think they have a problem we can be compassionate toward?
Mm.
Do you think they might be encouraged if somebody reached out with a very impressive, helpful message
yeah.
um,
Yeah.
that said, I saw you needed this, and I understand you really need, priority A, B, C that you see in the job description. I'm reaching out because not only have I done those things for, this company in the past, but I also share a huge, um, like I share in your mission for blah, 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 or your values. So
Hmm,
would it be helpful to connect? And that's like so humble. That's not pushy. Like just to
Mhm.
take a beat and say, can I read this situation in a different way? And so much freedom was found by just not thinking about yourself, like
yeah.
himself in that situation. Like,
Yeah.
oh no, this is going to make me look blah, 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 old messages that are learned from
Mhm.
the
Yeah.
past,
Yep.
and actually
Yeah.
say, oh my gosh, could this bring someone relief and encouragement?
Hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's so good, Kelsey. And by the way, like hitting too close to home here with the anxiety questions. Come on.
I know.
Like-
Hey.
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think what you articulated that I love so much is that, leaning into our truest selves, leaning into authenticity and honesty, and like doing the work to know how to respond to anxiety really helps us access our best thinking.
Mhm.
And really, really does help
Yeah.
us like get to the place where we can say, Here's what's going on. Here's what I want to go on." Yeah, our best thinking. Maybe that's all I want to say about that. I love it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm curious how you think somebody could access their best thinking when they're not in the benefit of a conversation. Like they're not having a conversation with you in the moment
Yeah.
where they're able to iron all things out in a safe space. They're at work and in a meeting, they just started kind of freaking out.
Yeah.
How can they access their best feeling in that
But
moment?
I think, I mean, one way is to simply take a breath,
Take a
like
breath.
just pause. Maybe. And one thing that I've started to do, one thing I encourage people to do is to do what you've done. What I've, at least what I'm hearing from you is to say, you know what? Um, I'm feeling a little bit stirred up right now. I just want to be as honest with you as I can. And because I'm feeling stirred up, I'm taking a breath. I'm still a little triggered. Can we take a break? Can
Mhm.
can we pause this meeting? Can we have this conversation later? Um, just, I mean, no threat. Just be to be honest. But I mean, those are the things like in real time. We just ask ourselves the question: what's going on here? Um, is there an actual threat? And
Mhm.
and and then just try to get present. Um, because we feel the anxiety. We talk about this a lot. Like I'll feel it if I'm really triggered. I get it right at the where my neck and my head come together.
Mhm.
I feel it in my traps. I'm getting tight, and now I'm about to do the thing that like. And Kurt and I are going to deal with stress or anxiety differently. I'm going to engage. let's go. If you want to fight, you got to fight. And he's not going to behave that way. So there's a lot of words. I start with a deep breath. And my next move then would be to say, hey,
Yeah.
I'm not sure that what I'm going to say now is my best thinking.
Mhm.
Yeah. We talk a lot about promises, that we make promises to ourselves to keep ourselves safe. Those are usually the ones we make as kids or as teenagers. We call those protective promises. They protect us. We also talk about purposeful promises. Those are promises that replace those that say a different story, right? We actually recommend people write that down. I'm looking at my computer screen. I've actually got one taped to my computer screen right now. That's something, if I get an email, if I get a, whatever, I'll be honest, this morning I got an email that was really jarring. Not a personal at me, just a really hard email. And I got to look down at that purposeful promise and remind myself, okay, here's what's true. And it helps me access some of that best thinking quicker.
Yeah, that's really good. I'm glad you said that, because like for me, like that purposeful promise I have worked it and reworked it and worked it over and over again to the point where it actually stops me from the behavior that I normally engage in. So when I get an email like Kurt just got, or, if I take my breath and it doesn't work, or if I ask for the break, I can go to that thing, and it was written down. It's in here now. It's in here. It's in my gut. It's okay. And I'm okay. And that stops me when I feel like I'm falling off the cliff. That's actually strong enough to hold my large self.
Yeah, I think that's the encouraging light at the end of the tunnel that I hear, that like it's not the hardest work ever forever. Like these things do get implemented into who you are, and you could have more peace because well, in my own words, like you have your own back. You're not going to self-sabotage. Like I had to do a lot of work around self-sabotaging. And because of my insecurity, there's a variety of things that people do. Shrink back, make self-deprecating jokes to like put it in people's faces, like, look, I see it too. I hated that. And I still slip into it. And I hate it when I do that. And the thing that feels the worst about it is I know the enemy toward me is me. And I'm like, whoa, whoa, whoa.
That's the thing.
Whoa, Kelsey, yeah, come on.
Yeah, that's the thing.
I hope that in all these things, people feel like it can get better. You can start today with those. Wait, what was the great term that you said? The promises, the productive promises?
Purposeful promises.
Purposeful. Okay, sorry. The purposeful promise around like, I mean, in the self-deprecating example, like my purposeful promise is I could lightheartedly joke sometimes, but I'm not going to be deprecating toward myself in front of other people generally. And I will slip up. And I will. But I
and so self-compassion really matters. And like giving your word to yourself over and over and over again. And I would say, I'm lighthearted. That's your purposeful promise. Don't say I'm going to be or I will, because then the circumstances have to dictate that. right? And so like I'm a stickler for this kind of thing, and so I'm coaching you in the moment. Sorry about it.
No, this is helpful. That's a way better. I was feeling
Yeah.
when I said like my promises, I'm not going to do that. I immediately was like, I can't
Yeah.
promise that.
Well, and here's the thing. So if I say I'm lighthearted and then I'm not, so I was talking to a friend of mine last week, and he really has influenced our thinking on this. And he was telling me about playing golf, and I'm like, oh, buddy, like I don't golf much anymore because I used to be a pretty good golfer, and now I don't, and I'd like lose my mind because I'm not performing at the level that I can. He said, well, I actually have a promise I make to myself about that. He said, I'm unflappable on the golf course.
Hmm.
And I was like, huh, yeah, that's really powerful. Now, can I do that all the time? No, because sometimes we're giving our word to things we can't currently do,
Mhm.
but but we do it and we try it
Yeah.
on, and then we come back to it because here we go, Kurt. The one-liners are just in us. Like the practice doesn't make perfect; it makes progress,
Hmm. Yeah,
and we're moving towards progress.
I
Which
really appreciate
what feels so helpful, Kelsey, when you talk about when you coach people and help people like have these conversations that are hard, like that feels so relevant to say,
Yes.
I'm going to ask you to do something you don't know how to do today.
it.
And practice is going to make progress.
Mhm.
Maybe you're not going to do it right the first time, but practice makes progress.
Yeah, that that is so true. I was just writing out an update I was making to our curriculum today, and it was listing out a schedule for the week of like 30 minutes this day on this task as you're in your job hunt, 30 minutes the next day, whatever. And then I realized, wait. Back up. Let's put a caveat before this schedule and say the first week you do this, it will feel like it is taking forever.
Yes.
The schedule below represents your third week, maybe, of trying
Mm.
this out.
Yeah.
Because every time that you do something for the first time, it always takes longer and you do it very gingerly because you're really not
Mm.
sure about it. And then you double check, you have two tabs open and you triple, quadruple check the directions. And of course, that takes forever. And of course, you send out two messages instead of 30. Of
Yeah.
course, you do.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
So
That's so good.
that I really appreciate this conversation with you guys, and this is fun to I guess it's like a answer the call and Brimstone Coaching Podcast
Yes.
merge. Um, yeah, thank you for suggesting this topic too, because obviously it's so important, and I really felt like heartened by um getting to the core of acknowledging some of these things that are probably a huge part of someone's career transition.
Yeah.
And I spend
Yeah.
a decent amount of my days sometimes having to just go into strategies and okay,
Mm,
let's get some work done. Let's do step one, two, three. But honestly, like this is probably so much more at the heart of what's
mm.
going on for people, and it dictates what they feel they're able to do. So I feel like this conversation, I hope and I pray it gave people more hope, compassion for themselves, and a vision for what could be,
Yeah.
even today, as you have a moment where instead of reacting, you take a breath.
Yeah. It's really great, Kelsey.
Yeah.
Thanks. Thanks for it.
Yeah. Thanks.
Thanks for the conversation.
By the way, how
Yeah.
do people reach out to you if they want to learn more?
Yeah, they can find us at our website. It's brimstonecoachinggroup.com. And on that website is a place where people can book a free initial coaching call with us to see if Brimstone's a good fit for them. Yeah, we also, if you're listening, you might be listening on our podcast, but you
Yeah,
might be
that's
Yes.
true.
listening on Answer the Call. If you're listening on Answer the Call, there is a Brimstone Coaching Podcast. You can find that on Spotify or Apple. We would love to begin a conversation with anybody that wants to know more about any of these concepts. And maybe then now, Kelsey, for the people listening on the Brimstone Coaching Pod,
LOL.
how do people
Yeah.
find you?
Yeah.
Yeah, thecalledcareer.com is
Mm,
a great place to start. And I have to compliment y'all's website. Like, definitely people should check it out, and it'll immediately give them clarity on how exactly y'all help people, what kind of people you help. And I really hope people take you up on the free coaching session. I've referred
mm,
people your way very confidently, and they're in good hands. And if
mm.
anybody is going through the practicals of a career transition, obviously I'm your girl. So,
That's right.
and
Yeah.
my other girl,
Obviously.
Audrey, our
Yes.
girly team will help you. Although I should be very explicit, about 50% of our clients are men. So,
I'm a pretty old man. And what I would say, well, I'm an old man, fairly old man. And like you have been helpful to us as we've gotten to, as we came together, we thought, hey, this might be fun. It's a good idea. And as we launched, like, yeah, who you are and what you know, I've learned a ton and
thank you.
have really helped us. So, yeah, if you
Thank
are
you
in
so
that
much.
world looking for that, give our girl a call.
Uh, y'all are the best. Thank you again for this conversation.
Thank
Yeah.
you,
Thanks,
Kelsey.
Kelsey. Hey, thanks for joining us today on this episode of the Brimstone Coaching Podcast. If you are feeling overwhelmed by anxiety, struggling to meet expectations, or simply exhausted from trying to keep up, we at Brimstone Coaching Group, we understand. We are passionate about helping you understand and navigate these challenges, and it all starts with a free initial coaching call.
That's right, Kurt. We offer tailored coaching sessions to our clients, whether you need one-on-one support or if you need like your group, your team needs a group coaching, or if you're a corporation of some sort and you need comprehensive coaching. It all begins with a free initial coaching call to map out the path forward.
Yeah, so for individuals, we offer coaching packages that include either 5 or 10 sessions. And we think groups can benefit from our structured coaching as well. We think this is perfect for groups like athletic teams, boards, either corporate boards or nonprofit boards, and even things like life groups. We believe that this will help you show up authentically and perform at your best.
I'm actually pretty excited about the things that we offer for athletic teams and boards and life groups. And friends, if your organization is looking to create a healthier, more genuine workplace, our corporate packages focus on managing anxiety and fostering authentic engagement. These things ensure that everyone on the team, on your staff, organization, that they are able to thrive.
So sign up today on our website for your free initial coaching call, whether you're a group or an individual. Discover more about how Brimstone Coaching Group can support you in your transformation at brimstonecoachinggroup.com. Again, sign up today for your free initial coaching call at brimstonecoachinggroup.com. We would love to talk to you, and we're ready to talk to you and walk with you on this journey towards wholeness.